In the gentle rhythm of a small town where life moved at the pace of wind through wheat fields, Maya and Jordan lived quietly in a modest, sun-warmed home on the edge of a sleepy suburb. Their love had bloomed slowly but deeply, built on whispered dreams and years of late-night talks under starlit skies. For nearly 5 years, they had tried to start a family, navigating the heartbreak of negative pregnancy tests and the clinical chill of fertility appointments. Still, they clung to each other, believing that love, persistent, enduring love, could bring them the miracle they longed for. Eventually, they found themselves walking through the wide, glass doors of a prestigious fertility clinic, a place whose marble floors and soft-spoken staff offered promises of hope. There, with trembling hope and quiet prayers, Maya's eggs were harvested and Jordan's sperm collected. They left the clinic hand in hand, hearts full, believing they had taken the first step in building the family they had always imagined. Time moved on like a quiet river, and before long, Maya gave birth to a healthy baby boy, whom they named Eli. 2 years later, a second child, a daughter named Ava, followed. Their home filled with laughter, sleepless nights, and the quiet chaos of parenthood. Jordan would often lie awake, cradling his children, overwhelmed with gratitude. They weren't just a family, they were a triumph of faith and medicine. Maya and Jordan took countless photos, celebrated milestones, and felt joy ripple through every ordinary moment. They didn't question the miracle, not once. Not until a regular checkup with their son's pediatrician introduced a sliver of doubt. The doctor, an older woman with kind eyes, noticed a small blue-gray patch on Eli's back and commented casually, "So which of you has Asian roots?" Maya's brows furrowed. "Neither of us," she replied. The room fell into a quiet tension. It was a simple, almost meaningless question. But once they left the clinic, the comment echoed. That night, Maya sat in the kitchen with a steaming cup of tea gone cold in her hands. Jordan stood in the doorway, his face shadowed by the porch light behind him. "Maybe we should just do a DNA test," he said, trying to sound casual, but she could hear the tightness in his voice. "Just to put the thought to rest." Maya nodded, though a stone had settled in her chest. Days later, they mailed off their DNA kits, joking nervously as they sealed the envelopes. When the results returned, the world cracked. Maya was confirmed as the biological mother. Jordan's name was nowhere. 0% match. Not for Eli, not for Ava. The numbers, glaring and cold, stared back at them. At first, Jordan laughed an empty, disbelieving sound. Maya stood frozen, her heart thundering in her ears. Couldn't be. There had to be a mistake. But the tests were accurate, clinical, final. The ground beneath their marriage shifted, and neither of them knew how to stay upright. In the days that followed, silence moved into their home like a bitter guest. Jordan avoided Maya's eyes. She cried in the shower, her sobs drowned by rushing water. Their children, oblivious, continued playing, laughing, calling for daddy, in voices that melted him and broke him all at once. Jordan wasn't angry at the children. No, he loved them with every fiber of his being. But the betrayal, the thought that someone had made such a critical, intimate mistake, gnawed at him. Maya began digging through medical records, emails, anything that could explain what had happened. She found the old appointment dates, the documentation, the embryology notes. Everything appeared normal, but nothing was normal. They weren't just facing a biological discrepancy. They were unraveling the very foundation of their parenthood. Maya contacted the clinic. At first, there were polite emails, vague apologies, an air of dismissal. But as the questions grew sharper, the responses became colder, more clinical. "We followed protocol," they said. "There's no record of an error," they insisted. But Maya knew what she carried in her womb, and Jordan knew who he had trusted with his future. They reached out to an attorney, a man named Cole Matthews, whose face tightened as he read the DNA reports and heard their story. "This," he said, voice firm, "is not just a mistake. This is malpractice. This is a breach of humanity." A lawsuit was filed. The names of the clinic, the doctors, the laboratories, they were all dragged into the light. The courtroom became their battleground, but it was their home that bore the scars. The news spread, whispers in the grocery store, sideways glances at school pickups. The town, once their sanctuary, became a gallery of eyes. Still, Maya and Jordan stood firm. For their children, for the truth. In court, the clinic's lawyers argued systems, safeguards, and possibilities of rare mutations. But DNA did not lie. The embryos had been fertilized with the wrong sperm. Twice. 2 different transfers. 2 different lives forever altered by an error buried behind sterile walls. Maya testified with tears that would not stop, her voice breaking as she described the guilt, the sleepless nights, the questions her children would one day ask. Jordan spoke quietly, but his pain echoed in every word. "I love them," he said. "No mistake can change that. But someone took something from me without my consent, without my knowledge. And I deserve to know why." The trial stretched on, but the courtroom was only one part of the war. At home, Eli asked questions that scraped against the wounds. "Why are people talking about us on the news, Mommy?" Maya would kneel, press her forehead to his and whisper, "Because telling the truth is important, baby, even when it's hard." Jordan began attending therapy, where he learned to separate anger from love, betrayal from fatherhood. Maya wrote letters to the children's future selves, trying to capture everything she felt in case one day they demanded answers. There were days they wanted to give up, to run from the grief. But love, stubborn and wild, tethered them to each other. The kind of love that survives even when shattered. A verdict came. The clinic was found negligent. Damages awarded. Policies changed. But no sum of money could give Jordan back the years he thought he had passed on his legacy. No court ruling could erase the ache in Maya's chest or the questions that lived in the shadows of her children's smiles. Still, they took a breath. They had fought. They had been heard. And in that, there was something close to healing. They chose not to tell the children everything, at least not yet. Instead, they focused on the love that had raised them, on the family that had been built not by biology, but by devotion. And as Jordan tucked Eli in that night, brushing the hair from his forehead, he whispered, "You are mine, always, no matter what." Years passed. The world moved on, but their story lingered. Other couples came forward. Investigations opened. The clinic shuttered. But for Maya and Jordan, life settled into a new rhythm. They celebrated birthdays, endured tantrums, watched first steps and broken arms and school plays. Occasionally, the old pain would rise, sharp and sudden, but they had learned to hold it together, to remind themselves that family is not born solely in blood. One afternoon, Ava, now 10, looked up from a book and asked, "Why do people always say DNA makes a family?" Maya smiled softly. "Because they don't understand yet," she replied. "But one day they will." In the quiet of their home, now weathered but still warm, Maya sat on the porch while Jordan painted the fence with Eli and Ava beside him. Laughter echoed down the street. The pain had changed them, scarred them, but it hadn't destroyed them. If anything, it had deepened their roots. What had begun as a dream and descended into nightmare had, somehow, brought them closer to the truth of who they were. Not victims, not just parents, but warriors for accountability, for love that refused to be defined by chromosomes. They had demanded answers, and while the truth had hurt, it had also set them free. In a world that had failed them, they had still chosen to love, and that, above all, was the legacy they passed on. In the pursuit of parenthood, people trust systems with their deepest dreams, and even the slightest error can leave permanent scars. But even through betrayal and unimaginable pain, love proves stronger than blood. Let this be a call for accountability in all systems that shape lives, and a reminder that truth, though painful, has the power to heal. If you found out your children weren't biologically yours due to a clinic's mistake, would you still raise them as your own? Or would you want to find their biological parent? Subscribe to the White Coat Crimes for more shocking true stories, medical crimes, medical mysteries, and the dark side of healthcare you were never meant to see.